Welcome to another sports and mental health conversation. I am Will Driscoll, co-chair of the Youth Sports Mental Health and Wellness Alliance. I am also the executive director for the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame, and the Hall, in partnership with the Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters and countless other stakeholders in youth and collegiate athletics, helped create this alliance to focus on mental health in sports. The Alliance aims to decrease the stigma around mental health and wellness and also provide resources to help create positive sports experiences. And joining us for today's sports and mental health conversation to give her perspective and insight on this important topic is Erin Sutton, a student athlete, field hockey, and lacrosse player at Kempsville High School here in Virginia Beach. So Erin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Absolutely. Well, we love, obviously, this is called the Youth Sports Mental Health and Wellness Alliance. So we love hearing the perspective from the student athletes. So we'll go ahead and get it started with this question, but why, as a student athlete, is mental health important to you?
I think for me, it hit a little home as I think it's something that obviously like a lot of people talk about. It's not talked about enough. And like you can never talk about it enough. And, growing up, I never really thought much about it. And when I got older and, I think it's become, I feel like it's shifted in the severity of it in younger athletes nowadays. And, I had some health issues come up as I got into high school. So, I was dealing with, the transition into high school and thinking about recruiting and wanting to play at the college level and, all of that on top of then dealing with my health. And I realized that there was a lot of value in being able to self-assess and self-analyze and actually like understand your mental health at like on a deeper perspective.
So it sounded like a lot of the pressure that was around was kind of self-inflicted. At what point did you recognize that you were going through some struggles?
Um, I think going into high school freshman year, I definitely started to pick up on the fact that, my health was out of my control. And I've always been an overachiever. I've always been very self-driven. Like naturally my parents were both kind of like that. They went after what they wanted. They set goals for themselves. And so the environment I was raised in really encouraged my sister and I to do that.
Mhm.
Um, and so coming into high school, when things like my health started impacting my ability to play my sports and just live life, uh, it kind of changed my perspective. And I realized that like your mind has so much power over your body. And, athletes are often, there's the physical injuries, but there's also like the whole mental aspect of the game, and that applies to every athlete, in my opinion. So my dad's always told my sister and I as we got older that like your mind has so much power over your body and like even your physical well-being. And so we've kind of gotten better at being able to see how that correlates in life and in our sports.
So when you were going through these mental and emotional struggles, how did that manifest on the field? Because you mentioned that it was affecting your performance on in field hockey.
Yeah, so for me, my health conditions actually stem like neurologically. So my pain essentially, I have chronic pain, and the chronic pain essentially comes from my ability to control my mind. And so everything for me became mental because when I would go to play, I have like I'm very confident in my game IQ when it comes to field hockey. Field hockey is my main sport. I've been playing it for years. My mom played like I've always been really confident in my game IQ, but when it came to being able to perform the activities that I knew I needed to do in order to be successful on the field, it became challenging when things like pain and dizziness became a factor. And so being able to understand my mind and control my mind ended up like changing like everything in my play. And when like I think for me it became really difficult seeing like I played for a very phenomenal club team.
Mhm.
Like standout team nationally ranked, like phenomenal group of girls. Um, and so they all work their butts off all the time. They continue to grow and progress as players and as people. And they're beautiful young women. And I think part of me always got caught in that I was being held back by my health and I wasn't able to continue to flourish. And not that they didn't have their ups and downs, they did. They had their injuries, they had their challenges, and I often would get caught up in the, you know, I'm being held back because I can't perform the way that I want to. And it really forced me to like sit down and think about, how much me being able to see where my head is at and see, you know, where I can fix things, and just being willing to keep moving forward with where I am, because, that's what mattered to me most, was that like I knew I wanted to keep moving forward. I knew I wanted to play in college. So um like the mental aspect, being able to understand it really ended up changing my play like significantly.
So when you recognize that there's an issue now, was there a person or a group of people, or was there another outlet that kind of helped you navigate these struggles?
Yeah, I think for me, I've always had a very tight support system in my family, and I know not everyone is blessed to have that. Um, but my mom, when she went to every appointment with me, I mean, she'd take me to Norfolk to go to the hospital for my MRIs, and she took me to every specialist I needed to see to get a diagnosis. And like that played a huge role in everything that I went through. I also think my coaches and my teammates, that like they continued to be there for me and push me at practice, knowing where I was and where my head was at. And I think like that's transferred over, like that's made me a better person. It's made me a better athlete.
That's wonderful to hear, and what I've really enjoyed so far about hearing your story is how you recognize there was an issue, but by getting to kind of the root cause of that, it seems that kind of helped you with your performance on the field by understanding why you were going through those issues. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, I think um, mental health in itself, I think sometimes there might be a lack of, I don't want to say like information, but like knowledge. Like genuinely, like I think people start to learn about it once it's gotten to a point where it's like unbearable or it's really impacting their life. But catching it before you get to that state can allow you to almost prevent it. Like, not that you're not going to go through your ups and your downs and things like that, but like it can help you learn how to address it if it does arise.
You're very It's important for people like you to share stories like this, especially the youth athletes, because you all are a part of the generation that is really going to help make the maximum change. It's good that we're having these conversations, but I'm done playing sports. We can create this advocacy through the alliance, but it's your generation that's really going to take this next step. Why do you feel it's important to share your story with a broader audience, especially at such a young age?
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know that, everyone always says, but like you genuinely aren't alone, because everyone, everyone has a mind. Like everyone thinks things, everyone goes through things in their mind, and everyone has a different perspective. And so understanding that there's different people with different perspectives that can still understand to a degree like where you are and where you stand is important. Um, and I also think that as like generations kind of move on and grow older, like kids nowadays get into sports at a much younger age.
Mhm.
So it's starting to get like burnout has become really, really popular. Like not popular, but like really common.
Mhm.
So like you see a lot of kids getting burnt out at a really young age because they start so young. And genuinely it could just be because they didn't love the sport anymore. And like that's completely okay. But I also think there's a level of the mental aspect and the toll that it takes on someone after you consistently play, and there's no regroup, there's no being able to self-assess and see where you are.
You're talking about your specific story, but have you found that amongst your peers, your teammates, and even your coaches and other leagues that you've been a part of, that this is now becoming more common as part of the conversation?
Yeah, I definitely would say that it's more common. Even in like school, I've participated in things like Morgan's Message, where we meet in clubs, we do dedication games and things like that, so that the awareness is being built. um I think the actual like knowledge could be a little more widespread, and that's up and coming. Like I feel like we're starting to get there, and that's a beautiful thing. But yeah, I definitely think it's become more common. I think it's still hard to talk to. Like, it's never going to be a comfortable thing to really like sit down and talk about. Um, but I definitely think that people are starting to recognize like the importance of it.
You know, you brought up a very good point that it's always going to probably have that difficult aspect to it to have conversations like this, but by keeping the conversation consistent and normalizing it, it makes that much easier when you do have to have those difficult conversations.
Right.
We just have a couple questions left for you, but we're seeing change take place every day. You know, even though we're still barely scratching the surface, a lot of change has happened. You're still very young, but where have you seen changes in how this has been approached in just your short career playing high school athletics?
Yeah. I think I've seen a lot more people, like friends and family, that are willing to speak about their experiences, and like how it has impacted them and how it's shaped them as athletes and even more so as people. Um, I think it's like it's really moving when you see people being able to speak up about it. But at the same time, I think even if you're not able to speak up about it, like you're still within a community, like you're still moving forward.
What I'll get you out of here on this one. What advice would you give to the next Erin Sutton that comes up behind you that maybe might go through some of the same struggles or similar struggles?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think, you know, it was always important in me, like, to build confidence and know where you are, know where you want to be, and know what you need to do in order to get there. But also live in the moment. I've always been an overachiever, so I always get caught up in the where I want to be, what I needed to get there. But I also that would cause me to not realize where I am. But yeah, I think I would also say, stay humble, know where you came from, know who got you where you are, um, and just be willing to to continue to grow.
I think that the overarching message there is understand the process and not just the results. And
Yes.
all of this is a process, understanding our own mental health, understanding those of our peers, and just being part of the conversation, I think is going to make impactful change long term. And part of that change is conversations like this. And so I know that it's a busy time of year. School's about to wrap up. But I want to thank
Yes.
you for taking some time to join us today. So thank you so much, Erin, for sharing
Yes.
your perspective.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, parts of this conversation will be featured as part of our hashtag Sports Mental Health Monday campaign. Throughout the year, we'll be sharing content and information featuring our Alliance partners. Posts can be found on the Hall of Fame social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn, as well as the Hall's website, vasportshof.com, and the Alliance's new website, yswa.org. Once again, I'm Will Driscoll from the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame on behalf of the Youth Sports Mental Health and Wellness Alliance. Thank you for following along and be on the lookout for more sports and mental health conversations.